This is a sales geek academia to business translation production. Okay, so every salesperson out there knows the feeling, right? That relentless grind, the cold calls, dealing with rejection day in, day out. It's tough.
It really is. Burnout's a constant shadow.
Exactly. But you see some salespeople who just seem to bounce back, setback, no problem, they're back at it. Then others, well, they get caught in that downward spiral. Dissatisfaction sets in, and eventually they're gone.
Yeah, and it feels like more than just, pure grit or determination.
That's what we're diving into today. There's this really interesting psychological trait involved. It's called locus of control.
Yeah.
And it's basically a belief system, right? About where you think control actually lies inside you or outside somewhere.
Precisely.
So our mission here is to take some solid academic research, this really relevant study from the Journal of Business and Industrial Marketing focused on B2B sales.
Yep. It's tough.
And translate it into something practical. Actionable insights for you, the sales leader listening right now.
That's the goal.
We're going to unpack how this locus of control thing impacts job satisfaction, stress, even how likely your salespeople are to stick around, and crucially, what you can actually do about it. Okay, let's unpack this then. Locus of control. What exactly is that in simple terms?
Okay, yeah. Simply put, it's about how much you believe you control the events in your life, including your work. Think of it like a scale.
Okay.
On one end, you've got an internal locus of control. People here believe their own actions, their effort, their skills. Mm-hmm. That's what makes things happen.
So like a salesperson saying, yeah, I nailed that deal because I worked my tail off and really understood what they needed.
Exactly. I put in the work, I got the result. They own it.
Got it. And the other end?
That's the external locus of control. Here, the belief is that outside forces, luck, fate, the economy, other people are mostly responsible for what happens.
So that's the salesperson who says, lost the deal, bad economy, nothing I could do.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Or even, wow, got that huge lead, pure luck, it just landed in my lap. They attribute it outwards. And what's really key here, especially in sales where, let's face it, setbacks and no's are pretty common.
Part of the territory.
Yeah, exactly. How a salesperson explains those frequent negative outcomes to themselves, that turns out to be a really strong predictor of how satisfied they are in their job and how resilient they'll be.
Wow. So it's less about what happens and more about the story you tell yourself about why it happened.
That's
powerful.
It really is.
Okay, so this study dug into the downsides of that external locus of control. This is where it gets critical for sales leaders, right? What did they find?
Yeah, the findings were pretty stark. First off, a more external locus of control. It's directly tied to significantly lower job satisfaction for salespeople.
Okay, lower satisfaction. Makes sense. What else?
It's also positively linked to role stress. Things like role conflict. That's when a salesperson gets mixed signals, Sell more, but cut your expenses. They're stuck in the middle.
Right, pulled in two directions.
And also role ambiguity. That's the feeling of, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing here, or what exactly is expected of me in this situation. That lack of clarity.
Okay, so externals feel more conflict and ambiguity.
Yes. And here's another layer.
Yeah.
That external locus of control doesn't directly cause burnout, but it indirectly leads to emotional exhaustion.
How does that work?
Well, the study showed that having a more external LOC leads to experiencing more role conflict. And that role conflict, in turn, directly ramps up emotional exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion, as you expect, is a major killer for job satisfaction.
So you've got this domino effect. External mindset, more role conflict, more emotional exhaustion, tanking job satisfaction.
You got it. That's the chain reaction.
And that drop in job satisfaction isn't just a nice-to-have problem. It leads straight to turnover, doesn't it? And the costs there are, frankly, staggering. The research mentioned numbers like 25% to even 200% of a salesperson's annual salary per departure.
Absolutely astronomical. And if you think about how that ripples through the company, it's huge. It's not just one person leaving.
Break that down for us. What are those costs exactly?
Okay, so first, there's the obvious hit, the lost business, from that salesperson who's no longer selling for you. Immediate impact.
Right.
Then you've got all the costs of finding, hiring, and training their replacement. Recruitment fees, interviewing time, onboarding, training programs. It adds up fast.
Yeah, that's a huge time and money sink.
And third, and this one's often underestimated, is the loss of business, because the new person is still learning. There's always a learning curve, right? They won't be hitting the same numbers as the experienced person they replaced for quite some time.
Makes sense.
This study actually put numbers on it. Firms with high turnover, they define that as over 27%, could see over 14% of their total sales revenue eaten up by turnover costs.
14% compared
to maybe 3% for firms with low turnover, like under 10%. That difference is massive. It's not just an HR headache. It's a direct hit to the company's financial health.
That really frames why keeping good salespeople satisfied is so critical. But, salespeople are a bit different, aren't they? They're often called boundary spanners.
That's a key concept.
They're out there engaging with the market, often working pretty autonomously, maybe without constant oversight. Does that mean general business research doesn't always apply neatly to them?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Yeah, their unique role means you can't always just take findings from, say, office workers and assume they apply perfectly to field sales. That's why sales-specific research like this is so valuable.
Okay.
And actually, that uniqueness showed up in a surprising finding in this study. Remember role ambiguity, that feeling of uncertainty?
Yeah, what am I supposed to do?
Right. While role conflict definitely drove emotional exhaustion, role ambiguity didn't seem to have the same significant impact on exhaustion for these salespeople.
Really? That is surprising. Why not?
Well, the researcher suggests a couple of possibilities. Maybe salespeople are just different. Perhaps they've self-selected into the role because they're better at dealing with uncertainty and ambiguity.
Or they learn it on the job.
Or they learn it. I mean, think about outside sales. You're constantly facing new situations, unclear customer needs. You often have to figure things out on your own without running to a manager for every little thing. So maybe they develop a higher tolerance for it.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like a prerequisite for the job sometimes. So, okay, if salespeople might be naturally more resilient to ambiguity, but still vulnerable to role conflict and low satisfaction if they have an external LOC, what does this mean for the sales leaders listening? How can you use this?
Right. The research points to some very concrete things managers can do. It's actionable.
Okay, good. Let's hear them.
There are two main areas the study highlights. First, and they flag this as potentially the most cost-effective strategy, hire for an internal locus of control.
Hire for it. How?
Yeah, by using validated personality assessments during the recruitment process. There are tools out there, things like the PAI, maybe components within Myers-Briggs or others, that specifically measure attribution style. Look for candidates who lean less external, more internal.
So screen for that belief that I control my outcomes.
Exactly. If you hire people who already have that internal mindset, you're preventing a lot of potential downstream issues with satisfaction and stress. It's a proactive step.
Okay, hiring is step one. What about the team you already have? Can you shift someone's locus of control?
Yes, that's the second area. Working to shift the locus of control in your existing salespeople.
Yep.
It's about coaching and development.
How do you even start that conversation?
It can start with simple, regular check-ins, one-on-ones. IBM research actually suggested even just a 30-minute chat, weekly or monthly, can be enough to spot these external attributions.
So listening for the blame game.
Kind of, yeah. Listening for patterns. When someone consistently blames the market, the competitor, bad luck, you can gently challenge that. Help them see where their actions fit in. Ask questions like, okay, the market's tough, I get that. What's one thing you could try differently this week?
Guiding them towards controllable actions.
Precisely. It's about helping them connect their behaviors to their results. Beyond those conversations, think about training and mentoring.
What kind of training?
Training specifically designed to show them they do have control and how to exercise it. Maybe bring in motivational speakers who emphasize personal responsibility, use books or articles, facilitate group discussions where salespeople share how they overcame obstacles through their own efforts.
Learning from peers.
Exactly. And mentoring is powerful here too. The study suggests pairing salespeople who tend to be more external with your high performers who clearly operate with an internal LOC.
Like an apprenticeship in mindset.
Sort of, yeah. Let the external thinker see firsthand how the internal thinker approaches challenges, analyzes results, takes ownership. That modeling can be incredibly effective. Show them the direct link. See, this behavior leads to that outcome.
Makes sense. Anything else?
The study also mentions empowerment. Giving salespeople more autonomy, more say in how they do their work can boost prosperity for the firm.
But with a warning, right?
Yes, definitely a note of caution.
Yeah.
They call it a slippery slope. Too much autonomy without clear goals or guidance, and people might lose focus on what the company actually needs them to do. So it's strategic empowerment, not just letting everyone do whatever they want. Give ownership within a clear framework.
Right. And thinking about the cost again, investing in assessments for hiring, carving out time for coaching, maybe setting up mentoring. It sounds like effort. It sounds like maybe some expense.
It is an investment, absolutely. But you have to weigh it against those massive turnover costs we talked about. Potentially double someone's salary walking out the door.
Good point.
When you frame it that way, investing in building a team with an internal locus of control, a team that takes ownership, feels empowered, and is more resilient, that's not just a cost. It's a strategic move with potentially huge ROI in terms of reduced turnover and ultimately higher sales. It hits the bottom line.
Yeah, it reframes it completely. It's an investment in performance and stability.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's wrap this up and bring it back home. The core message seems crystal clear. How your salespeople explain success and failure to themselves, their locus of control has a massive impact. It affects their happiness on the job, how they handle stress, and whether they stick with you.
Absolutely. Cultivating that internal locus of control isn't just fluff. It's fundamental for a high-performing, stable sales team.
So let's nail down those key takeaways for the sales leaders listening. What are the top 3 things that should start doing, like, tomorrow?
Okay, 3 actionable steps. First, prioritize locus of control in hiring. Don't just look at experience. Actively assess candidates for that internal mindset using proper tools. It's your most cost-effective first line of defense. Get it right from the start.
Number 1, hire for internal LOC. Got it.
Second, cultivate ownership through coaching. Make those regular one-on-ones count. Listen for external excuses. Gently guide your team to focus on their controllable actions and help them see the direct link between what they do and the results they get. Build that sense of agency.
Number 2, coach for ownership.
Okay. And third, use strategic empowerment and mentorship. Give your team autonomy where it makes sense within clear boundaries. And critically, use your internal LOC stars to mentor those who struggle with external thinking. Let them learn by example how to take control.
Number 3, empower strategically and leverage mentors. Makes perfect sense.
Those 3 things can make a real difference.
Fantastic. Okay, one final thought to leave everyone with. We've talked about hiring for this and coaching it, but consider just how deep these belief systems might run. If locus of control really is this powerful driver of success and satisfaction in sales, what other changes, maybe bigger cultural changes, could sales organizations make to truly build an environment where every single salesperson feels like they are the architect of their own results?
That's a big question.
Something to really chew on. Thanks for breaking down this research today.
My pleasure. It's important stuff.